Sometimes, the quietest person in the room is the one holding all the power. They mocked his clothes. They called him poor. They said he didn't belong. But when the will was finally read, every smirk in that room vanished. Before we dive in, smash that subscribe button, hit the like, and turn on bell notification. Like the video and share this with someone who's ever been underestimated. This story will stay with you if you watch till the end. Now, let's get back to our story. Marcus stood at the edge of the room, shoulders slumped, hands in his pocket, the only one not dressed in designer clothing. His cousin strutted past in heels and watches that cost more than his monthly rent. His Uncle Peter poured a $500 bottle of scotch like it was water. The occasion? Not a birthday, not a celebration. This was the reading of Grandma Evelyn's will, and the sharks had already begun to circle. Poor Marcus. His cousin Brielle whispered loudly, still rocking that thrift store jacket. Laughter, ridicule, more of the same. But Marcus stayed silent. He just gripped the worn briefcase Grandma Evelyn gave him, a scratch down one side. Inside it, documents, letters, something no one else in that room suspected. Because Grandma didn't just leave behind money. She left behind a plan. 2 days before the will reading, Marcus overheard his Aunt Carol on the phone. Once we sell Evelyn's house, I'm putting in that spa I always dreamed of. Brielle was online Googling how to liquidate antique jewelry. Uncle Peter? He was in secret meetings with Grandma's former lawyer. Family loyalty, he'd said once, only goes as far as the money does. Marcus kept notes. He listened, watched, and waited, because Grandma Evelyn always told him, let the greedy talk loud. Let them play their game. You watch, and you learn where every piece on the board is. The day arrived. The family gathered around the long oak table. Mr. Delaney, Grandma's trusted attorney, opened the envelope with a deep breath. As per the final wishes of Evelyn Margaret Sinclair. Everyone leaned in. To my son Peter, I leave $1. For my niece Carol, also $1. To my granddaughter Brielle, I leave my jewelry box, minus the ring I know she tried to pawn in 2021. Gasps, shouts, outrage. Peter nearly flipped the table. This is a joke. Mr. Delaney didn't flinch. To my grandson Marcus, I leave the house, the business shares, the trust, and full legal control of all my assets. Because he's the only one who stayed. Not for what I had, but for who I was. Marcus finally rose. For the first time in hours, the room fell silent. I knew none of you would believe it, he said softly. That's why Grandma and I prepared everything months ago. He opened the briefcase. Inside, video footage of Grandma signing the transfer of assets, bank records, witness statements, a handwritten letter. You saw me as the poor kid, the outsider. But Grandma taught me how to run the company. She gave me the passwords, the power of attorney, and more importantly, she gave me something none of you ever earned, her trust. Peter lunged across the table, veins bulging. I'm contesting this. You manipulated her. But Mr. Delaney shook his head calmly. Everything was notarized, recorded, backed by law. Brielle stormed out. Carol looked pale. For once, the loudest people in the room had nothing left to say. That night, Marcus sat alone in Grandma's garden. He didn't feel victorious, just peaceful. The wind rustled through the roses Evelyn planted years ago, the same roses they used at her funeral. She'd once said, they'll count you out. That's how you know you're in the right position to surprise them. And he had. But just as Marcus began to finally breathe easy, a letter arrived. No stamp, no sender, just a photo inside. A black and white image of Evelyn, holding a child Marcus had never seen. On the back, a name, your brother. And beneath that, you think the war is over, but the real enemy is closer than you think. Marcus stared at it, heart pounding, because suddenly, the inheritance wasn't just money. It was a secret, a legacy, and maybe a lie. They tried to take everything from him, but Marcus stayed silent and won loud. Or did he? Who was this mystery brother? What secret did Evelyn take to her grave? And what happens when a quiet man becomes a target? Marcus stood still as the lawyer's words echoed in that quiet room. He was no longer the ignored grandson. He was now the legal owner of everything his grandmother left behind. But the room didn't stay quiet for long. His cousin Jana exploded first. "This has to be a mistake," she hissed, red-faced. "Grandma would have told us." Uncle Ronald slammed a palm on the table. That boy must have tricked her, or manipulated her. She wasn't well, she was confused. The lawyer didn't even flinch. "She was of sound mind," he said, sliding the signed video testimony across the table. "And she made this decision with clarity, months before she passed." They played the video, and there she was, his grandmother, smiling in her garden, her voice steady. "I'm leaving everything to Marcus," she said, "because he's the only one who never asked me for anything, yet gave me everything." Ronald left the room first, but Marcus didn't move. He sat there still, quiet, processing, until the lawyer leaned toward him and said something that shattered the air all over again. "Your grandmother also left you a key. She said you'd know what it opened once you were ready." That night, Marcus went back to her estate, the home where he'd spent summers trimming roses and reading under her old magnolia tree. He walked through the house with the key in hand, and finally he found it. Behind a portrait in her study was a small locked cabinet. The key fit perfectly. Inside were letters, old legal documents, and one envelope. It had his name on it, and one line written in her handwriting: "You are not alone." Marcus's hands trembled as he opened the letter. Inside was a photo. 2 boys, one clearly him as a child, the other a boy he didn't recognize. The letter read, "His name is Jalen. He's your brother. I couldn't keep you both after what happened to your mother. But now that I'm gone, he'll need you and you'll need him. You have more in common than you think." Marcus sat in that chair all night. His world flipped again. The next morning, reporters were already waiting outside. The story of the forgotten heir was spreading fast. But Marcus wasn't ready to talk. Not about the will. Not about the house. Not yet. He had one mission now. Find Jalen. It didn't take long. His grandmother had left enough breadcrumbs. And when he did find him, he wasn't in some faraway city. He was right there, in the same town, working as a mechanic, covered in grease. Quiet. Alone. Marcus watched from a distance for a while, until finally, he walked up, hands shaking. "Jalen." The man turned. Same eyes, same jawline, same confusion. "Do I know you?" Jalen asked, and Marcus said only this: "No, but I think I've been looking for you my whole life." Music swells into hopeful tone. They sat and talked for hours. Marcus told him everything. About their grandmother, about the inheritance, about the letter, and about the final document she left behind. A document neither of them expected. A sealed trust, in both their names, meant to be unlocked only if they found each other. And just when Marcus thought the storm had passed, Jalen pulled out a letter from his pocket. Old, torn, faded. "She wrote to me 2 years ago. Said if anyone ever mentioned your name, I should trust them. Said you'd bring answers." That's when it hit Marcus. His grandmother didn't just plan this for months. She planned it for decades. But not everyone was ready to let go. Uncle Ronald had filed a petition, challenging the will, claiming fraud, and threatening to expose dark family secrets if Marcus didn't give up the estate. So now, Marcus isn't just the quiet grandson anymore. He's the head of the estate. He has a brother he never knew, and he has a decision to make. Does he stay silent again, or does he speak, and expose the truth that could destroy everything? Ronald wasn't bluffing. 3 weeks after Marcus found Jalen, court papers arrived. The petition to invalidate the will was brutal. Undue influence, mental incompetence, forgery. Ronald was trying everything, but Marcus didn't flinch, because what Ronald didn't know was that Marcus had already hired a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. Jalen's best friend from college, a woman named Zara Green, top of her class, fierce in the courtroom, and deeply personal about injustice. The same week the case hit court, Marcus handed her every single letter his grandmother had written, her journals, her videos, even the sealed trust naming both brothers. But it was something else Zara found that changed the entire direction of the case. Hidden among the estate's files was an old deed, signed by Marcus's grandmother, transferring a different property to Ronald 10 years ago. But the signature? It was forged, and not just sloppily. It was professionally altered. Zara knew exactly what to do. Day one in court, the judge, a sharp-eyed woman in her 60s, called the room to order. Ronald came dressed like the grieving brother, but his eyes were full of fire. Zara stood calmly beside Marcus and Jalen. When Ronald's lawyer tried to paint Marcus as manipulative, Zara waited. Then she stood and spoke just one sentence. "We will not only prove the will is real, we'll show who in this room forged the past and tried to steal the future." Gasps echoed. The judge nodded. "Proceed." Exhibit after exhibit hit the table. Letters with matching handwriting, emails from Ronald demanding early inheritance, voice memos of him threatening their grandmother's caretaker. But the moment that sealed it was when Zara handed the judge the forged deed. "Your Honor," she said, "the notary listed here passed away 2 years before this date. This isn't just desperation. It's premeditated fraud." Ronald stood up, veins bulging. "This is all lies," he shouted. "Everything should have been mine. He was just the gardener's son." Silence fell. Everyone turned. Even Ronald's lawyer buried his face in his hands. Soft emotional piano fades in. Marcus didn't move. He didn't need to, because for the first time in his life, he didn't have to explain himself. Truth had done it for him. The judge banged her gavel once. Petition denied. The will stands. This court recognizes Marcus and Jalen as the rightful heirs. Reporters flooded the courthouse steps. Cameras flashing. Mics everywhere. But Marcus walked past them. He wasn't chasing headlines. He was chasing peace. 1 month later, the estate was transformed. Not into a mansion, but into something better. A community center, with a garden, a reading room, and a scholarship fund in his grandmother's name. And at the ribbon cutting, Marcus stood between Jalen and Zara, tears in his eyes. "I used to think I didn't belong," he said. "But maybe I was just being prepared, not to inherit land, but to grow something that lasts." The final box from the attic held one last surprise. A cassette tape, labeled, "For when it's over." Marcus played it. His grandmother's voice came through the static. "If you're hearing this, it means you made it. And I'm proud of you, baby. Don't just hold on to what I left you. Build, love, and never let anyone make you feel small again." Legacy doesn't come from money. It comes from meaning. That's the end. If this story touched your heart, smash that like button, comment below, and subscribe to Trace Light Stories. Tag someone who knows what it's like to be overlooked, and remind them that sometimes the quietest ones make the loudest impact. Comment, "Justice served," if you stayed till the end. And let us know, what would you have done in Marcus's shoes? Tell us where you're watching from.